Expedition 33, the Western RPG that somehow isn't a complete disaster. Which, come to think of it, is an absolutely mad turn of events. And let me be fully transparent with you all, I am just as shocked as you when I say that, against all odds, Clair Obscure Expedition 33's very existence demonstrates a return to form for Western gaming, or at the very least, a glorious moment of hope. Let's be honest, for the most part, much of Western AAA gaming these days has felt a bit like watching a magnificent old building slowly collapse into itself. Nearly every title feels like it has been built on creaky foundations, utilising cosmetic scaffolding and the occasional rat scrambling out of the rubble. Between broken launches, soulless live service garbage, and endless lectures disguised as stories, I'd all but given up hope that the West could still make a decent RPG. I am looking at you, the embarrassment that is Dragon Age the Valguard, and then somehow, miraculously, Expedition 33 happened. A Western-made turn-based RPG that isn't just good for a Western game, but a genuinely brilliant title full stop. It's bold, beautiful, challenging, unapologetically stylish, and best of all, it actually respects you as a player. Let's just say it's the best thing to come out of France since the croissant. When I'm not playing it, I'm thinking about it, and when I am playing it, I'm wondering how the hell this thing even exists in 2025 without being smothered in microtransactions, bad haircuts, so-called progressive messaging, and spoon-fed, uninspired mechanics designed for only the most basic of idiots to get the most out of. Essentially, this game is everything its contemporaries are not, and since I was one of the millions of players who were smart enough to have taken the plunge on this one, I thought, why not provide you all with a deep dive on what I know about this game and my experiences so far to encourage each of you to play it too. I am Lady Decade. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button, as this is Clair Obscure Expedition 33, the Western game that somehow isn't terrible. Truth be told, Expedition 33 first caught my eye at the Xbox showcase last year. Amongst a sea of dreary service games, corporate buzzwords, and cinematic experiences that all looked exactly the same, this one immediately stood out. Get this, it actually looked interesting, and it was actually attractive to look at too. Not a single Dustborn or Concord-looking character in sight. From the moment I first laid eyes on it, the game became one of the standout titles from that presentation for me, although, being a rational adult, I still fully expected for it to get delayed, downgraded, or quietly drowned in a bathtub of poor design choices somewhere before release. After all, this is a French game. It's from the same country as Ubisoft, the very slop factory behind some of the most polarising Western releases of recent years, such as Assassin's Creed Shadows and Star Wars Outlaws, just to name a few, and yet somehow this game is nothing like them. It isn't just good, it's utterly exceptional. In fact, I'm completely addicted to playing it. Full disclosure here, every time I put the controller down, I'd find myself daydreaming about getting back to it, which is saying something considering my brain usually reserves that kind of obsessive energy for real emergencies, like remembering embarrassing things I said at house parties 15 years ago, or why did I say that thing to that man once? But seriously, Expedition 33 now lives rent-free in my head, right next to where I store the memory of my childhood hamster and the lyrics to Mambo No. 5. There's something just so rare about a game that grabs you like that, especially these days when more forms of media are competing for our attention than ever before. In fact, it's this competition that functions as one of the very factors as to why most Western games are so bloated nowadays, with them desperately scrambling against one another to appeal to the lowest common denominator, often with the most stagnant, unimaginative ways possible. Yet somehow a small team of mad Frenchmen actually managed to produce something that feels genuinely inspired for a change, and I'm not ashamed to admit it's rekindled a tiny flicker of hope in my cold, cynical gamer heart. In fact, if you want to join me all aboard the hype train and fancy picking up Expedition 33 for yourself, good news! You can grab it right now. Use my discount links to get a ludicrous 40% off the best game released this year. Not only that, but if you already have access to it, they've got up to 90% off thousands of modern, AAA, classic and retro titles too. Check out the link in the description if you want to support the channel and bag yourself a bargain at the same time. Happy shopping, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this video. Now, I knew that Expedition 33 looked promising when I first saw it, but I don't think even the most optimistic of us expected it to absolutely explode the way it did. We're talking 1 million copies sold in just 3 days. 1 million! To put that into perspective, that's about 999,998 more copies than most modern Western RPGs deserve to shift. Even more ridiculous, this thing was made by just 30 developers. 30! That's right. No wonder it's so good. 30 actual human beings made it, not 400 bickering middle managers, so-called social media experts, and a bloated HR department hosting empowerment seminars. Just a small team, a clear vision, and enough talent to make the rest of the industry look like it's been staffed exclusively by malfunctioning Sims. And if that wasn't impressive enough, they even transitioned the entire project mid-development from Unreal Engine 4 to Unreal Engine 5 to push the game's visual fidelity further. A daunting technical leap for a team of any size, let alone one this small. Critically so far, the game has utterly smashed it too. Across pretty much every review site, it became an instant darling. High user scores, glowing editorials, a sea of baffled journalists scrambling to work out how they were supposed to talk about a Western RPG without immediately reaching for the words live service or content roadmap. Even Polygon, who usually wouldn't recognise a good game design if it hits them around the head with a baguette, called it a triumph of storytelling and combat, which is basically like earning a Michelin star from a man who normally eats crayons. Honestly, watching Expedition 33 succeed is like finding out your favourite pub hasn't just survived the lockdowns, it's added a beer garden, hired a decent chef, and somehow avoided serving you a steak that tastes like a boot. It's glorious. It feels wrong, but in the best possible way. To really understand why Expedition 33 deserves such high praise and encouragement from us all, you have to look at the wide collapse happening across the Western gaming industry. And I don't use the word collapse lightly. Over the last decade, Western AAA development has shifted away from making great games and towards a very different goal: making safe bets. You can see it everywhere, the shift away from focused, challenging adventures and towards oversized open worlds stuffed with checklist busywork. The obsession with live service models, not because they make better games, but because they promise endless streams of microtransactions and engagement metrics. Games are no longer built to be great, they're built to be endured. Look at Cyberpunk 2077. Marketed as a once-in-a-generation RPG experience, but at launch, it was a hollow shell, all flash, no soul. Fallout 76 stripped out everything that made Fallout memorable: the writing, the characters, the choices, and replaced it with an empty, broken online sandbox that nobody wanted. Mass Effect Andromeda abandoned the strong writing and memorable characters that made the original trilogy beloved and gave us plastic-faced stand-ins with dialogue so flat you could serve drinks on it. And what's even worse is that even new projects aren't learning from these failures. Dragon Age Veilguard last year sparked enormous backlash from fans, not because people hate the franchise, but because the tone and style look completely unrecognisable. Instead of a rich, complex fantasy world grappling with moral ambiguity, the new trailer looked like a Saturday morning cartoon, all garish colours, meme humour and generic action hero quips. The art direction has been flattened into safe, market-tested, appeal to everyone sludge, stripping away the brooding, mature atmosphere that made the earlier Dragon Age games beloved. Concord, meanwhile, immediately earned mockery for being yet another soulless hero shooter, the kind of game that feels like it was conjured up by asking ChatGPT to make Overwatch but remove anything interesting. Even the characters, supposedly the selling point, were derided for looking like they'd been stitched together from random TikTok aesthetics with no sense of identity, stakes, or edge. There has been so much disappointment in recent years, and players aren't reacting out of mindless negativity. They're reacting because they can sense when a game has been stripped of risk, of personality, of real ambition. They can tell when a world wasn't designed to be explored but to be managed, when characters aren't written to be remembered but to pass a brand audit. And that's the real tragedy. What's missing is heart, courage, respect for the player's intelligence. Instead of offering true adventures, most modern Western games now treat you like a bumbling tourist on a heavily supervised theme park ride, complete with floating markers, endless pop-up hints, and a chirping quest log that won't stop bleating at you in case you dare to find something for yourself. Somewhere along the way, the joy of play, real, challenging, exploratory play, got replaced by algorithmic predictability. And if Expedition 33 proves anything, it's that players were never the problem. We didn't get tired of RPGs, we didn't need live content and endless dopamine loops, we just needed something made with craft, confidence, and a bit of bloody spine. And Clair Obscure offers all of this. While the rest of the industry keeps pretending that turn-based combat is some dusty relic of the past, a museum exhibit next to floppy disks and sensible politicians, Expedition 33 proves otherwise. It doesn't just resurrect turn-based combat, it refines it, retools it, and actually makes it, well, innovative. In this game's case, they call it reactive turn-based, and for once, the buzzword actually means something. Yes, it's traditional in structure, you take turns, you plan moves, you set up combos, but it's not passive. It's not about clicking attack and watching animations play out whilst you go ahead and make a cup of tea. Every single move demands timing, attention, and skill. Yep, you heard me. Actual skill. Basic attacks are relatively weak, deliberately so, forcing you to rely on abilities and special moves that require precision to land properly. We have dodge, parry, counters. These are real mechanics, not afterthoughts. Dodge too early, no bonus. Parry mistimed, you take a full hit to the face and you bloody well feel it. Pull it off perfectly, you can interrupt enemy attacks, generate extra action points, and even turn entire battles around with a single beautifully timed move. It's challenging, yet deeply satisfying. In short, it's the kind of system that rewards mastery, not mindlessness, and by refusing to overcomplicate it with endless layers of stats bloat or pointless additional systems, Expedition 33 keeps combat fresh and engaging even 60 hours deep, something that most Japanese role-playing games can't even manage anymore. Compare it to what we usually get in Western RPGs, click-heavy slogs dressed up with flashy particle effects and endless cooldowns. In Expedition 33, every action matters. Every enemy demands you learn, adapt, and outsmart, not just spam your strongest ability and hope the numbers go up faster than theirs. It's simple, it's brutal, it's brilliant. One of the easiest traps for Western RPGs to fall into, and fall into it they do with depressing regularity, is cultural blandness. The settings blur into a slurry of generic medieval castles, steampunk knockoffs, or beige post-apocalypses, all designed to offend absolutely no one and inspire even fewer. What's cool in this case is that Expedition 33 takes one look at that nonsense and throws it straight in the bin. Instead of playing it safe, the developers at Sandsfall Interactive went all in on something rarely seen outside of obscure historical games: unapologetic national cultural identity. Set in a dark fantasy version of Belle Epoque France, Expedition 33 doesn't just sprinkle a few French flags into the scenery and call it a day. No, it feels French to its bones, and I have been loving every minute of it. For those of you not up on your 19th century history, the Belle Epoque, literally beautiful era, was a period of flourishing art, architecture, science and optimism in France between the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Think grand Parisian boulevards, lavish opera houses, wrought iron balconies, Art Nouveau, extravagant fashion, early cinema, the works. Expedition 33 takes that luxurious, romantic, over-the-top world and smashes it together with dark fantasy, giving birth to something visually rich, haunting and utterly unique. But this isn't just a visually striking world, it's a horrifying one. Every year, a mysterious figure known as the Paintress wipes out everyone above a certain age in a terrifying ritual called the Gommage. The surviving expeditioners aren't just adventurers, they're fugitives from time itself, locked in a desperate race against an ever-lowering death clock. It gives every exploration, every battle, and every scar the heavy, grim urgency that most modern RPGs can only dream of capturing. Even the game's title, Clair Obscure, French for Clair Obscure, the art of dramatic light and shadow, speaks directly to this core theme of beauty and horror intertwined, of hope flickering stubbornly in the face of obliteration. From the architecture of Lumiere with its golden light and intricate domes, to the character names, to the way French phrases slip naturally into dialogue, the game lives in its setting. It's such a breath of fresh air, and so entertaining and mesmerising that it makes you just want to shout, "Vive la France!" The game has a very distinct cultural identity, and it's not just about buildings and accents either. The whole world is drenched in a luscious, painterly use of colour, deep violets, crimson reds, smoky golds. The soundtrack too is saturated with melancholy French ballads, sweeping orchestral flourishes, and haunting soprano vocals, anchoring you even further into this twisted Belle Epoque dream. There's even the occasional burst of French accordion music that absolutely tickles my brain every time it starts up, and I just love it. Every area has its own distinct background music too that fits like a silk glove, weaving itself so naturally into the environment that you almost don't notice how much it's guiding your mood until you stop and really listen. The battle music as well isn't just some generic track endlessly recycled across the map. It changes depending on where you are, carrying the atmosphere of each region straight into combat. It's so good that I don't just want to hear it whilst I'm playing, I want it as the soundtrack to my entire day. It's amazing. As creative director Guillaume Broche puts it, everything is of French origin. And you can really tell the art, the music, the mood, even the casting choices, it all hums with the kind of cultural pride you usually only find in the best Japanese RPGs. Compare that to the likes of Dragon Age Veilguard, which seems to think diverse means throwing a bunch of random archetypes into a fantasy pub and hoping nobody asks questions, or Star Wars Outlaws, which somehow manages to take one of the richest fictional universes in existence and still make it look like it was assembled by HR consultants. In Expedition 33, on the other hand, you can feel the love and passion, genuine French love and passion. Expedition 33 doesn't just stand out because it's good, it stands out because it dares to just be itself. One of the most baffling trends in modern game design is how terrified developers have become of letting players actually get lost. Every big-budget RPG now seems determined to hold your hand like an anxious mother escorting a toddler across a supermarket. Expedition 33 rejects all of that nonsense and embarrassing modernity with a refreshing confidence, as once you leave the broad overworld and dive into an actual area, whether it's the lush spring meadows, the eerie flying waters, or the crumbling ancient sanctuary, you're truly on your own. No mini-map squatting in the corner of the screen, or blinking breadcrumb trails telling you exactly where to shuffle off to next. Just a sprawling, interconnected world that expects and rewards curiosity. Honestly, who would have thought that exploring a world for yourself in a video game would make it so much more immersive? Who would have thought it? Each of the game's zones feels like a labyrinth in its own right. I'm constantly backtracking, stumbling onto side turnings I missed before, uncovering hidden pockets of enemies I'm nowhere near strong enough to challenge yet. It never feels like a straightforward A to B slog. It feels like I'm adventuring, properly adventuring, in a living, breathing, terrifying world. And speaking of terrifying, I wasn't prepared for just how strong the horror elements are either. Expedition 33 doesn't shield you from the sheer brutality of its story. The gore is graphic and even the human suffering is presented in full grisly detail. It's caught me completely off guard in the best possible way and adds a sharp, visceral edge to the otherwise beautiful dreamlike environments. You can even see the toll it takes on your characters. When Gustav and the others are low on health, they don't just have a flashing icon above their heads, they're covered in cuts, bruises, blood, visibly beaten and battered. It's a small detail, but it hits harder than any HUD warning ever could, reinforcing the sense that you're fighting tooth and nail for survival in a world that doesn't care if you make it to the next objective marker. Even the world map itself treats you like an adult. Rather than giving you a meticulous breakdown of every puddle and pebble, the continent map is broad and thematic. A rough guide encouraging you to venture out, get a little lost, and enjoy the sheer act of finding your way again. In a gaming landscape obsessed with minimising confusion, Expedition 33 remembers that being a little lost, a little unsure, is part of what makes an adventure feel real. It trusts you to explore without babysitting, to think without prompting, to succeed without constant validation. And that trust transforms exploration from a tedious checklist into something far rarer, a genuine sense of adventure, the kind most modern games have forgotten how to deliver. Bon travail, Sandful Interactive. Another thing that sets Expedition 33 apart from its contemporaries is that, brace yourself, the characters are actually attractive and interesting at the same time. A shocking concept, I know. In most modern Western RPGs, you're lucky if the characters don't look like they were procedurally generated by an AI with a grudge against humanity. Ugly for the sake of so-called relatability, bland for the sake of so-called accessibility, and written with all the depth of a soggy rich tea biscuit. Not here. The cast of Expedition 33 are adults, proper adults, weathered, complicated, flawed, and magnetic in ways that feel completely natural, each with a distinct personality and visual identity that screams France from head to toe, and it's not just about conventionally attractive faces either. Having spent some time myself in several French cities recently, I can confidently say that the cast feels far more authentic to modern French demographics than most games even attempt. The people you meet in Expedition 33 look like they belong to the world around them, effortlessly stylish, effortlessly French. Whether they're black, white, or somewhere in between, every character feels like a natural part of the setting. Not a token, not a corporate checkbox ticked during a soulless Zoom call. They don't just look French, they feel French, which is beyond refreshing. And crucially, they behave like people who have lived through genuine trauma. Gustav has seen most of his friends die. The love of his life, Sophie, torn away in front of his very eyes. His squad leader decapitated right in front of him, and Lucienne dying horribly while trying to save him. And if that wasn't enough, he now carries the heavy responsibility of Maëlle, still so young and so full of hope, whose decision to join the expedition weighs on him just as much. Maëlle chose to come knowing the risks, but that does nothing to ease his fear that he'll fail her too. These aren't just tragic backstories conveniently rattled off in dialogue, they're scars that weigh down every step he takes, every decision he makes. You feel it in the way he talks, in the way he moves, in the way he flinches when others get too close. It's trauma lived in real time, not these sanitized therapy session caricatures that modern games seem so obsessed with. What is just as impressive is that the rest of the party isn't far behind him either. There's no chosen one nonsense here. No angry girl boss lead, just the broken, complicated adults doing their best to survive impossible odds. Then there's the voice acting. Charlie Cox of Daredevil fame and Jennifer English of Baldur's Gate 3 lead an outstanding cast who bring the characters to life with real emotional weight. These performances are restrained where they need to be, explosive when they have to be, and crucially, they never talk down to the player. You're expected to pick up on nuance, to read between the lines, and to care because you choose to, not because the script is begging you to. This is special as it's rare these days to find a game where you're invested in everyone, not just the protagonist. But Expedition 33 manages it. Every member of your expedition matters. Every conversation deepens the bond, and every wound, physical or emotional, feels earned. This title was expertly curated. When you're trekking through the ruins, health bars low, party members covered in blood and battered half to death, it matters that you care about them. It turns every skirmish into a nail-biting struggle, every victory into a moment of genuine relief. And every loss, temporary or permanent, is something that actually hurts. Expedition 33 doesn't just give you characters, it gives you people. Perhaps the most shocking thing about Expedition 33, more shocking than even the fact that it exists at all, is that it launched as a complete game, not an early access excuse, not a broken live service experiment with promises of future fixes, and not a half-baked tech demo hiding behind a content roadmap. A finished, fully formed, honest-to-God game. Which, in 2025, that alone feels almost miraculous. Where most Western developers now treat launch day as the beginning of a long, painful apology tour, Sandful Interactive simply delivered what they promised. A full, satisfying RPG that respects your time, your money, and your intelligence. From the very first moment, it's obvious. There are no glaring missing features, no £20 expansions dangled before you've even beaten the tutorial, and no 30GB day one patches frantically trying to fix what should never have been broken. Instead, you get a rich, coherent world packed with meaningful content. The main story is substantial without ever bloating into filler, while side quests are crafted with care, expanding the world and the characters rather than feeling like random chores left on a checklist. There's a natural rhythm to it, a feeling that every inch of Expedition 33 was made with intent rather than outsourced by the lowest bidder. It's a stark reminder that games are not supposed to be patch notes and promises, they are supposed to be complete, satisfying experiences, built with pride, delivered with confidence, and remembered with affection. In a world where broken releases have become the new normal, Expedition 33 stands tall as proof that small teams with clear vision and actual pride in their craft can still outperform corporate juggernauts by simply remembering the basics. Finish what you start. Respect your players, and never, ever release something you wouldn't be proud to put your name on. And due to this, I can't recommend this one enough. When I started playing Expedition 33, I genuinely thought that I was hallucinating. A Western RPG that was beautiful, challenging, culturally authentic, and finished, all in the year 2025. It seemed about as likely as finding a unicorn working at the checkout at Aldi. But somehow, Sand managed it. They created a game that reminded us why we fell in love with RPGs in the first place. A game that trusts you to think for yourself, challenges you to get better, respects your time, and delivers a world so richly crafted that you actually want to get lost in it. And they did all this without $1 billion budget, and instead simply a vision that they stuck with, delivering something extraordinary. Expedition 33 isn't just a brilliant RPG, it's a bloody indictment of the modern industry. It proves that all the excuses, the endless claims that players don't want difficulty or story or craftsmanship anymore, were exactly that, excuses. Because when someone actually makes a great game, people show up, they play it, they talk about it, and more importantly, they remember it. And in an era where most games are forgotten before the last patch even drops, that, perhaps, is the highest praise any developer could ever hope for. Don't forget, if you fancy picking up Expedition 33 for yourself, there's good news. You can grab it right now for up to 40% off through my affiliate link. Not only that, but they've got up to 90% off thousands of modern, AAA, classic and retro titles too. Check out the links in the description if you want to support the channel and bag yourself a bargain at the same time. Or if you want to support me in a more personal way and gain access to my behind the scenes cosplay pictures, then please consider backing me over on Patreon. I'll see you all again soon.